Good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome to our inaugural session of LocoNav Live, a webinar series aimed at elevating businesses by leveraging AI and IoT-driven fleet technology and telematics. I am Udit Paliwal from LocoNav, and I'm your host for today. Super excited to kick off this session that will help you understand why do businesses need fleet technology. Now, before we have our speaker take this discussion forward, let me take a moment to run through the must-dos. Your opinion, queries, and response is very important to us. So please drop your questions through the session in the chat box. Our speaker will address them. The session is being recorded, so please click on the Google Form link to get the video on demand. Now, without further ado, I would like to welcome our speaker, Surya Tej, Vice President Strategy at LocoNav. Surya, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Udit. Thanks for the quick introduction. I would have loved to have this session in person with a lot of fleet management enthusiasts, but with an intent to cover as many participants as possible, we thought it would be prudent to have this session online. Wanted to keep this session as interactive as possible, so request all the participants to please send in their questions or recommendations or suggestions, so that at the end I'll spare 5 to 10 minutes to cover as many questions as possible. I'll start with a quick introduction. I've been associated with LocoNav for close to a year now. I've been working as a vice president in the internal strategy team. Started my professional journey in a rather unconventional way. I started working as an aerospace engineer with the Indian Space Agency, ISRO, and worked there for close to 5 years in the Aerospace Systems Engineering division. And then at the end of the 5th year, I decided I need to pursue an MBA to sharpen my business acumen. Went on to do my MBA from the Indian School of Business, Hyderabad. And post that, worked with a couple of high-growth startups. Worked with OYO for close to 3 years in their customer experience and global expansion team, mostly on the product and process enhancements to improve the customer experience across 15 to 20 countries. And post that, I briefly worked with the Mobile Premier League, which is a real money gaming app based out of India. Was heading the customer experience division, was responsible for the customer experience, product experience, and the customer satisfaction scores across India, Indonesia, and briefly for US. I was, absolutely fortunate enough to be a part of the Indian navigation system satellite launch during my initial days at ISRO. This is basically India's answer to GPS. GPS is a US-based satellite constellation which provides a positioning system across the globe. IRNSS, which is equivalent to GPS, if my memory serves right, it's a constellation of 17 Indian satellites, which is covering the entire Indian landmass. So essentially, any point which can send signal to the satellite over India can be traced with utmost precision. Back then, when I was part of the engineers who were responsible for the launch of these satellites, I was super excited about the potential of the system and the prospect of tracking any moving or stationary object with such high precision. Now I can proudly say that I have seen the entire evolution of navigation and tracking applications in India, right from the satellite launch to working for a telematics company, which is essentially integrating these solutions to fleet management. Right? Having seen the journey, I can, with utmost confidence, say that we're just getting started and the overall potential of IoT is yet to be unlocked. And I'm extremely bullish about the fleet management ecosystem across, especially the emerging side of the world. For the purview of this session, I wanted to cover aspects of how Internet of Things solutions can be integrated with the fleet management ecosystem and how a typical fleet manager can reap tangible benefits out of all the applications that we usually provide to customers. I'll quickly get into the slides. I don't want to pivot to the slides, but want to keep this session as interactive as possible. Maybe I will just explain our philosophy and then try to gather insights based on how we started solving for typical problems in IoT, right? So we traditionally believe that any commercial vehicle is a running P&L on its own, right? Like, this is a very nuanced statement. If you look at it, any vehicle or any commercial vehicle for that matter, if it's moving on the road, each mile that it is moving with a load is a revenue generation opportunity, right? So, and every mile that it moves, obviously there are multiple costs associated with it, and there are multiple levers of cost that any fleet manager, the driver, can work on to improve the cost, right? While the revenue is typically driven by the overall demand that the fleet manager is able to aggregate, cost is something that typically it's not. I mean, very detailed observation is not put forward to the cost structure, right? So what fleet management solution or in general IoT integration with fleet management does is that essentially it provides real-time visibility of the entire fleet. And then the second layer is that each and every cost layer or cost lever that attributes to the overall cost structure, the fleet management system ensures that the fleet manager gets the real-time visibility of all the levers. How are the levers performing? How are each and every driver performing? Which are the routes that each of these drivers are taking? What are the routes which are creating problems with respect to fuel consumption, with respect to TAD delay, with respect to any other alert or any other issue that happened in that particular route, right? So that way, what happens is the fleet manager understands what's happening with each of the cost lever, understands what he needs to do on a day-to-day basis so that the fleet is optimized for efficient operations, and thereby reducing the overall cost, right? So what we try to believe is the revenue anyway is a function of demand. By inputting the fleet management solution into the entire fleet operations, the fleet manager will be in a position to understand what needs to be done to improve the cost structure, and thereby providing a better profitability for the entire fleet company, right? So maybe having said that, now with a very efficient fleet management solution, right? The fleet manager obviously takes control of all the costs into his hands. He understands what's happening with each of the cost levers, and then thereby providing very actionable insights to drivers on how to go about the trip, which vehicle he needs to take and which path, right? Thereby, I mean, a few solutions, right? Like improve the utilization of the fleet by optimizing routes and training drivers, right? You know, point A, point B, manually setting vehicles, drivers, paths, it becomes that much more tedious as the vehicle count goes up, right? So once a vehicle count reaches a particular threshold, it becomes practically impossible for any fleet manager to manage everything manually, right? So that is where the fleet management solution or the IoT solution comes into picture, bridges the gap, and makes the lives of fleet managers that much more better, right? So what do you mean by training drivers, right? So you have the data, you have the past data of how each and every driver is driving, how is his performance overall with respect to time, with respect to fuel consumption, with respect to how he's managing, how disciplined he is on the path, and all those things. Now the fleet manager understands on a driver by driver basis which driver is doing well, which driver is not doing well, which driver needs coaching, right? Proactively understanding what is the aspect that we need to train this driver with, right? So these are a few things which will obviously have a direct impact on the driver behavior. Thereby, what happens is the drivers are that much more vigilant, and then ensure that they're taking the right paths, driving the right way. They're not doing anything which is not expected of a good driver in a fleet company, right? The second most important thing is fuel pilferage. All of us in this meeting agree that the fuel pilferage is a real challenge when it comes to operating a fleet remotely across the country, right? So you don't have your eyes and ears on the driver. You don't understand exactly how much is the fuel requirement. There are multiple externalities, right? So it's very difficult to pinpoint that this should be the actual usage and this is what the vehicle has used, right? So with optimized fuel sensors, the fleet manager sitting any part of the world will get understanding of when the fuel got refueled or when the vehicle got refueled, when there is a sudden drop in the fuel levels, thereby giving a sense of whether there was a fuel theft that happened across the path, right? So when the drivers know that each and every aspect of the vehicle is getting monitored, they will become that much more disciplined with respect to everything, right? This is significant cost lever. I mean, all of us know that once the driver feels that there is someone looking at me, obviously that brings in that much more discipline, and then the fuel pilferage almost vanishes, right? Performance of drivers, we already discussed, by proactively training them and making them feel that better drivers are rewarded, and bottom 10% or 20% of the drivers are made to go through certain learning and development initiatives. This will directly bring in that performance enhancement across all the drivers, right? And more importantly, your drivers are your lifeline, right? Like any fleet operates operates well or operates only if the drivers are doing better, right? So obviously safety of drivers is of paramount importance, and then any efficient fleet management solution will ensure that the safety of drivers is kept at the center of the entire fleet universe, right? Now, having said that, there are multiple advantages or multiple benefits coming out of the IoT implementation into the fleet management. What are the typical solutions that are currently available in the market, right? If you look at the first one, that is a fleet and asset management system. Essentially, when a vehicle is moving, this system tells what happened with the vehicle, right? So anything that happened which is not of ordinary behavior, this gives you an alert, and then a report is generated. You get to understand what happened, right? So what is the typical part that happened once the vehicle starts moving, right? The second part is advanced video safety solution. This this uses cameras, both road facing and mostly driver facing, to tell how any particular incident happened, right? So while your fleet management solution, which is GPS enabled, tells you what happened, your video safety solution tells you how it happened, right? So these two put together give you a comprehensive and 360-degree holistic view of what exactly happened and how exactly a particular incident happened, how is the driver behaving, what is the driver behavior looking like. So the fleet manager essentially gets both his eyes and ears onto the vehicle. It's almost like virtually sitting in the driver's cabin and understanding what's happening, right? So these two provide you that comprehensive understanding. Whereas the integrated driver application is something which will bring in the driver into the overall IoT ecosystem, right? So this will be used for two-way communication, where the driver is expected to input certain metrics so that or certain inputs. Thereby, the fleet manager gets the understanding of what's happening with respect to the driver analytics, right? The second part is that the driver is also communicated certain things as and when the fleet manager understands that there is an insight that needs to be transferred to the driver so that it acts on it. This is the platform through which the fleet manager communicates to the driver. Thereby, there is a two-way communication channel with the driver, and then the driver becomes an integral part of the entire ecosystem. So now I think it's very clear what fleet telematics has to offer. So maybe I'll take a quick 5 minutes just to explain what's happening with respect to all the solutions that are currently available in the market, and then maybe try to explain in 10-15 seconds time what each of these features are, right? Live asset tracking, we also know, we all know that all the vehicles will be equipped with a sensor which is GPS enabled, essentially giving us the signal of whereabouts, right? So we try to pinpoint on the Google map and give that bird's eye view to the fleet manager to give him an understanding of where each of his vehicles are currently at any point of time, right? Second one, automated trip management. As we already discussed, there's a dashboard which gives you the details of how each and every scheduled trip is happening, how many trips are delayed, how many trips have happened in the designated time, and all the details, right, with respect to trips. So this is almost like where the fleet manager will get all his details with respect to how each his trip is performed, right? Most importantly, fuel theft protection. We already discussed. We understand that fuel pilferage is a real problem, and then integrating your fuel sensors will give you real-time understanding if there is a theft that happened in any of your vehicles, right? Route deviations, we understand that there is a particular route which will be optimized, and then that route will be specified to the driver. As and when the driver deviates from that particular route, there will be an alert which will be popped up in the fleet manager, for both fleet manager and the driver. Thereby prompting them that you're not taking the optimized route, you need to change or course correct so that the fuel, the time, everything is optimized, right? Obviously, real-time alerts, detailed analytics, and detailed reporting are some things which enable the fleet manager to take very good decisions with respect to optimizing the fleet and then thereby driving the costs down, right? Expense and management, maintenance management, very important module, loved across countries, both by drivers and fleet managers likewise, because this helps them understand any proactive requirement for maintenance, thereby reducing the downtime of the entire fleet, right? Doing all these things, and then what if I say that the solution that we have to offer is completely device agnostic? Any sensor that you have, the solution is compatible with more than 2200 plus devices across sensors. This is icing on the cake, right? You need to just have the required sensors, and then just by the click of a button and a couple of messages, this gets ported onto LocoNav's platform, right? Very exciting thing that I want to present to you guys today, the new technology which is in the block is the video telematics solutions. As we already discussed, this gives you that proper visibility of what's happening on the roadside as well as the driver side views. Understand very clearly, or I mean, I could go to the extent that you can have a visibility, real-time visibility, literally understanding or literally seeing what's happening on the road at any point of the time, right? Coming to the features, ADAS, which is Advanced Driver Assistance System, this is super critical for the understanding of how the vehicle is moving on the road. Certain things that you can definitely pick up by utilizing the ADAS facility is forward collision, speed violation, lane drifting, most important things in the emerging side of the world, understanding what's happening with respect to how the vehicle is moving on the road, right? Second most important thing, DMS, which is driver monitoring system. This essentially tells a lot about how safely the driver is driving on the road. How whenever the driver is drowsy, he is usually on road for 5 to 6 hours a day. I'm excluding the rest of us. It's very, I mean, the drivers are prone to be not attentive at times, drowsy at times, right? So they get distracted because of multiple things happening around, right? So this driver monitoring system constantly looks at the driver. Whenever there is a quick sign that the driver is not attentive, it sends a signal to the driver, and then just to record the incident, whenever an incident happens, quickly the artificial intelligence layer of the camera ensures that it covers only that much portion of the alert, and then it pushes immediately onto the cloud using the local internet, right? So that way, ADAS and DMS combined will give you that powerful insights, right? Both what's happening towards the road and what's happening towards the driver, right? With these two things, obviously, the most imperative thing is you understand which are the drivers who are super disciplined, super attentive while they're driving, and who are the drivers who are not, right? So at the end of the day, the fleet manager can get the report, use these insights for proactively training the drivers and understanding which drivers need proactive training, right? Obviously, video capture whenever there's a critical stretch the vehicle is moving, or any fraudulent claims, right? So for insurance, you can definitely capture certain video clips and then push it onto the cloud, or gets saved on the internal memory which is available on the device, right? Time lapse, I mean, obviously there are multiple use cases. One interesting use case that we recently encountered is the cash carrying machines for refueling the ATMs, right? So the banks or the security companies monitoring the entire sequence, they would definitely want to understand what's happening when the vehicle is entering the locality of the ATM, and then as the cash is getting removed from the vehicle and then getting inserted into the ATM machine, and how is the transit happening, right? So these are a few interesting use cases that DVR and time lapse videos capture, and then these are used by multiple used across industries, I think covering across multiple use cases, right? So we provide more than, close to 6 months of cloud storage where these alerts are getting captured, and they'll be available on the cloud. Whenever the fleet manager wants to retrieve them, he needs to just open the cloud and then access these videos, right? I think live view we already captured whenever the vehicle is entering a particular stretch where we believe that the fleet manager would be interested in. He can definitely capture the live view, right? So currently we are operational in more than 40-50 countries, and utilizing both the insights and the power of data that both fleet management system and then the video telematics system gives. We have, generated multiple needle moving initiatives. If you look at it, I try to capture them into three broad buckets. By providing improved visibility, obviously the vehicles move in a more disciplined manner because the drivers know that someone is watching their performance, and then obviously they're answerable for whatever is happening with that vehicle on the road, right? The second part, obviously, with higher visibility of the fleet, the operational efficiency goes up, and then risk mitigation obviously comes down, right? So if you look at the metric that I tried to project here, overall across fleets, across countries, we on an average we observe 35% improvement in the TAT because the drivers know that they are being monitored, and then they are answerable for their performance again, right? Most importantly, whenever we have a fuel sensor, fuel theft comes down almost to 0%. And obviously by route deviation, route optimization modules, the drivers are prompted to move in a particular direction. But obviously this drives the fuel expenses down, and on an average we observe 12% reduction, and then obviously fuel economy goes up by 2.13 kilometers per liter. And real-time examples, right? So not only typical deck level examples, but real-time examples that we have already demonstrated, right? So few examples just to pique your interest, and then maybe this could be you or your fleet, right? So few examples, right? Like very impact driven examples. We helped a transport and logistics company save us $1 million by just using fleet management solution, right? So the drivers became that much more disciplined. The fuel pilferage has come down, fuel economy has gone up, the TAT to delivery has improved, right? So multiple levers which cumulatively delivered a cost saving of close to $1 million for this company. Fast food restaurant reduced its material spoilage by nearly 70%. We have temperature sensor installed in all these raw material carrying vehicles, and thereby we get real-time understanding what is the temperature, and if there is a temperature increase, we take real-time actions so that the spoilage has come down by nearly 70%. African fintech mobility startup, again, one more interesting use case coming out of Africa because the leased vehicles industry is very prominent in African subcontinent. We understand that the banking companies or the fintech companies who have leased money to these vehicle owners want to have an understanding of what the vehicle utilization is. If these particular vehicles move out of a particular zone, I need to have an understanding whether the vehicle is going out of the catchment area, and then I'll not be able to trace them back, right? So very interesting use case. I mean, this is something that we are exploring in other countries wherever we see that there is a opportunity for leasing for vehicles. Again, Indian restaurant chain manage their trips, minute-to-minute tracking, leading to 98% in timely delivery of orders. Obviously, whenever there is a timely delivery of orders, the customer satisfaction rating goes up significantly. Here in this case, it went beyond 95%, right? So these are very few examples of whatever we were able to demonstrate across multiple countries, across clients. Again, I mean, this is a very broad understanding. I know I'm just covering the surface here, but again, the intent of doing this session is to give you a broad understanding of where we see applications with respect to integrating IoT into fleet management. Maybe I'll take a few questions. I would love to take as many questions as possible because I see a lot of questions coming in already. Maybe I'll take a few questions, and then in the closing statements, we'll try to capture the summary, right? The first question that I see here is, what are the few real life examples of where LocoNav solution really created an impact. I think I already covered that part. There are multiple examples where we have delivered significant impact, right? These are very typical use cases. I'll take an example. The first example, maybe I'll try to elaborate a bit, right? Indian Transport and Logistics Company, we have already provided them both GPS-enabled solutions, fleet management solutions, as well as video telematics solutions. It's a fleet of close to 140 vehicles based out of Uttar Pradesh in India. This company started as a typical small-scale FMCG company and then have expanded into full-blown transportation and logistics company. They have deployed fleet management solution where they used to analyze how these vehicles are moving across the country for catering to multiple trips. Our fleet optimization module or route optimization module helps them understand what are the typical routes that they need to take so that the fuel efficiency is attained. And then operating with more than 200, 300 drivers, it becomes imperative for the fleet manager to ensure that he has complete understanding of what's happening across India. So that delivered that much more diligence on the way the driver started behaving or the driver started moving their vehicles, which eventually had an impact on fuel savings. The pilferage went down to zero. They have taken assigned routes, completed trips, reduced idling, right? Reduced usage of the air conditioning whenever the vehicle is not moving, right? So all these things when combined, $1 million in a year, right? So close to 7.5 crores in a year. Massive cost saving, right? So this is again just an example of one of the clients who reap benefits out of fleet management and video telematics solution. Right. One more example. I mean, QSR, right? Quick service restaurants. Obviously, they deliver. They have a central kitchen, and then there are modular kitchens, right? So whenever food items have to be transported from one kitchen to the second kitchen, they would want the temperature to be monitored, and whenever there is an increase in temperature, they need to take real-time actions. Again, I mean, very interesting example, very real-time, very relatable example. They have reaped in more than 70% reduction in the raw materials spoilage, right? So going to the second question, how do you involve drivers into the telematics ecosystem so that real-time decisions are taken by drivers and the instructions are not relayed via fleet managers? Very interesting question. I think I briefly touched upon when I briefly talked about the driver app. So there are two ways, right? Like both proactive as well as reactive. Proactive, it's almost like the fleet manager communicates to the driver about any route deviation or any particular route that he needs to take. We also provide these audio devices that come along with the video telematics solutions. Whenever the driver feels drowsy, the camera picks that and proactively communicates to the driver in such a way that, hey, I mean, drowsy alert, or you're not attentive, and all those things, so that the driver understands that there is something which I'm doing which I'm not supposed to do, and then course corrects immediately, right? So coming to the reactive aspect, obviously the fleet manager gets 100% visibility of what's happening, and at the end of the day, he creates notes for each driver that these are the things that you need to improve. And then obviously there would be, and one most important and interesting use case or feature that we were able to deploy is the driver scorecard, right? So this brings in that competitive spirit among drivers in a particular fleet, and then the drivers also take that pride that, hey, my score is going up because I'm listening to whatever my fleet manager is saying, or I'm behaving the way I'm supposed to behave when I'm on the road, right? So this way, we're also in a way driving both safety of drivers and vehicles on the road, as well as the driver skill also is getting upskilled day in, day out, because the fleet manager is able to give them notes on what needs to be done to improve their behavior, right? So that way, we believe that any commercial vehicle is at the center of our universe, and obviously whatever is at the center of the universe, someone who is driving that essential item is the most important person for us. And then without keeping them into the loop, I don't think we will be able to sustain the results that we have been delivering so far, right? Coming quickly to the third question, can you elaborate a few features in the fleet management solution which are widely used across your clients? I think, again, I mean, all the features that I've mentioned here, right? So these are the features which are super widely used across 50 countries now. I think the most important thing that all of our clients really appreciate is route deviation, route optimization, real-time alerts, detailed analytics, very user-friendly UI, and then the reporting, right? So at the end of the day, they get a very detailed report of the performance of all the vehicles, and then they get to know what to do, what not to do, right? One more important thing is the fuel theft protection. I mean, very powerful tool to ensure that there is no fuel theft, the fuel optimization is done in the right way, there is no fuel wastage, right? So, I mean, very exciting features, loved by all our drivers, fleet managers, and then we are not stopping here. There are super exciting features we are building, and then the pipeline for the next 6 months, 12 months is power packed with all the features which all of you would definitely love, I'm sure. Again, I mean, we are already running out of time, so I would have taken as many questions as possible. Maybe you can keep sending your questions, suggestions, and again, repeating myself, this is just the introductory live session that we started with. If you could all share what are the type of talks that you want to listen to, maybe that would act as a real-time feedback for us, and then we'll arrange for those sort of talks in the coming days or weeks, right? Again, I mean, as I already mentioned in my opening remarks, I have been at the center of the entire evolution of telematics, or how the navigation satellite has been launched, and how we have started using the signals coming from the satellite to track anything and everything, right? So I'm more than confident now, more than optimistic now that fleet management is something that is just getting started. Each day we get to see a lot of new interesting use cases coming out, and then we problem solve with the fleet managers, fleet owners, drivers in most of the cases, to come out with solutions which will solve their problems, right? This is just the beginning. I'm super excited about the future of fleet management. It doesn't mean that the solutions could be only GPS enabled, or it could only be video enabled. I'm very hopeful that there could be plethora of sensors which could be deployed across vehicles, which will give you that powerful insights, which will make the lives of fleet managers, fleet owners that much more better, thereby driving their efficiency to next level. I'm super confident of the future, and having said that, we'll keep coming back with interesting sessions which will enable you to understand how you can deploy the solutions onto the fleet, and then maybe we'll take it from there. Thanks a lot, Udit and the entire team here at LocoNav for giving me this opportunity. Really appreciate. Looking forward to more sessions. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome, Surya. And thank you for such an insightful presentation and sharing some critical points on fleet technology, as well as answering the audience questions. I'd like to thank everyone for listening. Have a great day. Goodbye.